Joining us on this very important session where we need to bring clarity to a very fundamental national issue is no other person than, I like to put the great in front of his name, the great UG Mohammed. And this is a man that's passionate about the growth and the development of the power sector. Because at a time like this, where solutions to the power sector remains elusive, those answers, those questions can only be answered by the one and only UG Mohammed. Great to have you, sir. And it's more than a joy having you, sir.
Thank you very much, Rufai. Thank you.
Sir, why is it that we've had problems over the years with power? And why is it that, and what can we do to solve the problem of power?
Thank you very much, Rufai. Electricity is a fundamental infrastructure that is needed. Even if you look at the SDG, you see that other industries, including transport and other infrastructure, including transport and railway and the rest, they are grouped as one. But energy is only one in itself because it is an enabler for all other development aspects of life. And that's why electricity is very important. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we don't have electricity. So our lack of electricity is actually the problem that is associated with our underdevelopment because we cannot grow the private sector. See, part of the reason why you can manage corruption is actually to grow the private sector so that the private sector will be the engine of growth. So that instead of people going to government to steal money, they can actually, people can make money through private sector without connection to government. People will now do their business and make money. But when there's no electricity, how do you make money? Because electricity is enabler. And that is the reason electricity becomes very, very important in our life. Unfortunately, we have tried to see how we can fix the electricity, even allowing the private sector to come in. But we have consistently made mistake, Rufai. And that mistake that we are making, we have not sat down to even correct the mistake that we have made. When we make mistake, instead of us to correct the mistake, we keep on adding additional mistake. And that is the reason why we're having problem we are having.
Thank you so much. So how can we correct these mistakes? President Tinubu seems to have been making that mistake again in the power sector. What can we do to help him correct that mistake?
Thank you, Rufai. Leading to 2023 election, I think sometime in December 2023, we were invited as experts by PwC in Lagos. Before we came, before we went to that conference organized by PwC, we were asked to review the manifestos of the political party and look at what they were doing. And at that time, when we reviewed their manifesto and we sat down at PwC in Lagos, we established that all the political parties at that time don't have solution to the power sector. Meaning, at that time, we concluded that if the parties come into power in the form they were, they will waste another 4 years without achieving anything. That was the conclusion. And I think I did interview to about 2 papers, I think, to Channel and then to the Daily Trust TV. And I clearly stated that the way we reviewed the political parties, none of them have strategy on solving the problem of electricity. What they have in their manifesto were rhetoric, saying we are going to grow electricity to 20,000, we are going to do this. But there was no concrete strategies that will solve the problem. So at that time, we concluded that we are reaching out to the political parties to engage them. And actually, we concluded that there's one other guy in KPMG who will join us so that we engage those political parties. Unfortunately, the parties never listened to anybody. So all the political parties never listened to us at that time. And Rufai, you can see the result now. We have not moved. There was no movement. What we predicted is exactly what happened. So, and why is the electricity problem not being solved? It's not being solved because, as I said earlier, we make mistake and we continue to make mistake. Let me give you an example. Under General Olusegun Obasanjo, there was a concrete effort to solve the problem of electricity. That was what informed the creation of a National Integrated Power Project. If you remember, that National Integrated Power Project was conceived with a good intention. But how did it fail? It failed because there was no study that was carried out. Electricity, you cannot do study electricity without study. There was no study. And what happened? That project was hung on us by a foreign firm called GE. They want to sell their gas turbine, and they send one Nigerian to come and convince the president, and that was how we agreed to do that project. We did those contracts we enter under the NIPP were actually FOB, Rufai. When I say FOB, means the sellers of the generator will bring the equipment and put it on the sea. When they put it on the sea, it is left for us to clear the goods, to clear the equipment and do the installation by ourselves. That was why some of those gas turbines came and spent more than 5 years. Some of them in airport, they could not be cleared. Because even the bridge to carry those gas turbines was not determined. Even where the location you're going to put those gas turbines were not established. And at the same time, even the gas to power that gas turbine, meaning gas power pipeline, was not established. And that is why after several years, Rufai, I want to tell you that there are several of these NIPP projects that we spend billions in building them. There are several of them that have not been completed as of today. Some of them completed with several deficiencies at a cost, exorbitant cost. So electricity, you are supposed to carry out studies. That study will establish the need for you to do that project. But in Nigeria, we rush do things without doing studies, and we put incompetent people in charge, and that's why we have been failing and we continue to fail. If you look at the privatization exercise, there's a critical study that was supposed to take place, Rufai, and what is that study? It's called Aggregate Technical and Commercial Loss for the distribution. For the generation, we are supposed to do what is called generation adequacy study. Then for the transmission, we are supposed to do transmission expansion plan to show what are the least cost of expanding our electricity transmission lines. All those studies were not carried. But let me tell you, Rufai, the most critical of those three studies is the aggregate technical and commercial loss. Because the distribution companies are supposed to be the cash cow. Because they are the cash cow, they are supposed to work effectively because they are the one to bring the money. So if the cash cow could not bring the money, all the others will be bankrupted. The distribution itself will be bankrupt, the generation will be bankrupt, and the transmission will be bankrupt. But we didn't carry out the study. Rufai, I want to assure you that when we went around to do roadshow all over the world, that we want to privatize our distribution companies. Now, what is roadshow? Roadshow is to tell investors that this is what you plan to do. Now, when we went, we were told by all credible investors that go and carry out the aggregate technical commercial loss on the distribution companies if you want us to come. Now, what is the aggregate technical commercial loss? What is it? ATC and C, what is it? The aggregate technical commercial loss will tell you what quantity of energy enter a distribution company and how much of that quantity of energy that entered the distribution company is converted to cash. Is converted to cash. So that shows the efficiency of the company. Now, any company like big companies abroad that will want to invest into the network, companies that are quoted on the stock exchange of their country, they wouldn't come to enter a distribution company where they don't know the quantity of loss that are in that distribution company. And because of that, they told us, go and carry out scientifically the aggregate technical commercial loss. Rufai, we refuse to do that study. We know that no credible investor is going to come. So what did we do? What we did was to reduce the qualification criteria. To say, okay, even if you don't have the qualification, if you can enter the technical partnership with a qualified company, then you are qualified to bid for a distribution company. Now, but what is a technical partnership? Rufai, I want to tell you the first private sector intervention that took place in the power sector when Leo Limoke was the chairman technical board. I was a secretary of that committee that did what is called revenue cycle management, where we brought some private sector to help us collect our cash at that time. At that time, when I was a secretary, we insisted that even though those companies that are coming, they are not taking over the asset, they are just like consultant providing. But we insisted that all the companies that are coming must have a joint venture with these partners that have experience, so that they are both severally and individually liable. But when we said technical partnership, which we did under the distribution, which these people are going to take over assets, they are not consultants. Mind you, I tell you consultant, we insisted on either a consortium or a joint venture agreement where they are severally liable. Now we agree that they should sign technical partnership. Now, technical partnership places no responsibility on the part of the technical partner, meaning the Nigerian company that has no experience, have no capacity, is the one that will take responsibility on everything. That technical partner is just like advisor. And that's why we handed over our distribution company to all of them, apart from the company that came from Zambia, that manage Abuja, even Zambia themselves, which experience the Zambians have to manage a distribution company. They don't. So apart from that, there was no foreign company that came to Nigeria. All are Usman Mohammed and co, people who are Nigerians that took over the distribution company. Now, immediately they take over Rufai, one big problem happened. And up to now, we have not solved that problem. And what is that problem? Those companies have no capacity to mobilize long-term investment required for this kind of investment. Rufai, if you enter into a commercial bank now, Nigerian commercial bank, and you take a loan to build a house in Lekki, for example, and you said you are going to rent the house, and then the proceeds of the rent is what you are going to use to pay the loan, will you succeed? You will never succeed, because you are now using short-term money to finance long-term investment, meaning the house is a long-term investment, while the money that is a long-term investment, while the loan you collect for Nigerian commercial bank, they are all short-term investment. They can't give loan that is more than 5 to 10 years duration, and the interest rate is very high. So eventually, you will lose that house. The bank will take over that house, and that's exactly what happened with the distribution company, because those Usman Mohammed and co, and most of them are linked to policymakers in government. They are almost all of them are linked to policymakers. The thinking was that since the distribution companies are the one collecting the money,
corruption held its way.
Yes. So to this. Now, the government encourage Nigerian commercial banks, since they cannot raise long-term investment, to provide the money. So the money they use to even buy the asset come from commercial banks, local commercial banks, which I told you is very expensive, and at the same time, is short term. So that is the beginning of liquidity crisis we created for the power sector. Now, we created this liquidity crisis. Now, this company, they got the money from Nigerian Commercial Bank. There was no how they will raise long-term investment into the distribution network. And that is why we created a problem for us. So we now created embed that will take responsibility to be paying for the differentials that the government cannot pay. That embed was created to be a transitional organization. After the power sector mature, then they will cease. But now look at it now. The responsibility and the liability of the embed keep on growing because the exit strategy does not exist. Rufai, when I became MD of TCN, the first thing I did was to resolve the problem that is related to transmission. And what is it? The study that we are supposed to carry out for transmission, which is the transmission expansion plan. I hired Mrs. Fischner of Germany, and we carry out 20-year least cost transmission expansion plan. So we carried it out within 1 year. We were able to finish. So we established what are the shortcomings in transmission and how do we fix it. And we are working to put what is called minimum redundancy across the network. See, by electricity that you are seeing all over the world is about redundancy. So we came up with the policy of putting N-1, which was the first time in the history of Nigeria that such kind of thing came up. And what is N-1? Where there's a requirement for, let's say, for example, your house, maybe your house is in Ojidu, Abi. There's a place they call Ojidu in Lagos.
Yes, Ojidu, yeah.
So the house in Ojidu, and the requirement for powering that place is maybe 60 MVA transformer. What that minimum redundancy of N-1 means is that you have to put 60 MVA times 2, so that if one has problem, the other one. That is a minimum. Some are N-2 in some countries. Some is N-1. That was what we did. Now, after carrying out the study, we consulted with international donors, and we established about 5 projects to solve key critical transmission problems across the country. And those 5 projects are Lagos Ogun Transmission Project, which was to put 5 substations between Lagos and Ogun, which is the heart of Nigeria industrial base as of today. So we are supposed to put we are supposed to put 330 kV substation and lines in Ogijo, in New Abara, and Mountain on Fire. We are supposed to put 132 kV substation at Redeem and at also Badagry. Rufai, we carry out those studies. We established the right of way. We completed the design. We got the Ogun State government that time. Amusun was the governor, who supported us in reducing the cost of right of way. I want to tell you that what eventually made it difficult for us to move was that as the MDTCN, I insisted that the way we have been working before, we should not work that way again. So I insisted that everybody that we are going to be paid, we have to have his picture, we have to have his biodata, and we have to have his bank account, including his BVN. So we collected all this information. We reduced the money from 7 billion to 3 billion through the intervention of the Ogun State government at that time. We budgeted the money, and the money was transferred to Ministry of Power when I was MD. We had to pay the money. And the ministry said we have to go with cash. And I insisted that there's no way we go to cash. I will not be party to that. Rufai, that money stayed in ministry because of that disagreement of paying cash and paying through the bank account until I was removed. I can tell you that problem has not been solved. I was removed May 2020. Till date, that problem is still hanging. The compensation for right of way have not been paid. So, but what I want to tell you is that we established not only the Lagos Ogun Transmission Project, but we also established what is called, that Lagos Ogun Transmission Project was supposed to be funded by JICA. It was $238 million. Then we established what is called NETAP, which is funded by the World Bank. We designed the project, and for information, for the first time in the history of Nigeria, all those projects were designed by Nigerian engineers. There was no single consultant that we brought. Don't forget, I came from African Development Bank. We designed, all those are designed by Nigerian engineers. We never hire a single consultant. And even the problem we have been having with World Bank and donor-funded projects in the past, we mitigated it. So So in that out of that project, we have what they call NetApp, which was to put minimum redundancy in all the existing substations. So if you look at all those substations in Lagos, like Amu Odofin, all the substations in Lagos, we are to upgrade them from their current GIS substation that was very poor to standard GIS. So we were to upgrade them, and we are supposed to put minimum redundancy across Lagos and across Nigeria. That project was to put across Nigeria. It was $480 million. So that one would put minimum redundancy in existing substation. You know, even the donors, there are some donors that can finance greenfield projects. There are some donors, because of their environmental position, they cannot finance greenfield projects. World Bank is one of them. They can't finance greenfield projects. So we focus on the existing project with their money. Now,
what? I also want to ask, what happened to the Siemens project? Why has it not worked?
I will tell you, you know the story of the Siemens, but let me finish this one. Then we created what is called Abuja Ring Project, which was to put additional 4 substations around Abuja to look at the expansion of Abuja for the next 20 years and to bring a new line from Lafayette to Abuja. We established what you call Northern Corridor. Northern Corridor is to build a transmission line from Kayenji to Birnin Kebbi to Sokoto, and also to build a line from Kaduna, to convert one of the existing single circuit line from the single circuit line to quad line. For your information, that study that I told you carry out established the fact that if you hear some people, Rufai, they will be telling you that we should go for, what do they call it? We should go for power grid or super grid. You hear about it? That study is that Nigeria is not right for super grid. What does that mean? Nigeria is not qualified or is right now for super grid. So anybody who's telling you this is telling you stories. Because super grid, you need one big point of generation and one big point of consumption. We don't have that in Nigeria. So what that study is told us is that we should expand the use of 330. And that is why instead of doing double circuit, which is the highest line we have in our system, we now establish the need to do a quad line. So we established to do a quad line between Kaduna and Shiroro, and also Shiroro, and also between Katsina and Gwiwa in Kano. All those were to finance by French Development Agency, including the one of Abuja. Then African Development Bank was to finance a line between Kano and Kaduna, which is quad line. Then between Delta and between Alauji and Onitsha. For information, under the NIPP, government has provided to finance a line between Alauji, Uweri, and Onitsha, which the LC was open, Rufai, 100% LC was open, and the 100% money from that LC has been removed. There's no line, there's no wire. And that line between Alauji and Onitsha is the most critical line in Nigeria as of today, because it provided some of the biggest problem of transmission instability in Nigeria. So we had to build that line, that line, and it was financed by the African Development Bank. Then another line from Delta to Benin, because in Delta we have big power plants, and we have another one in Sapele, and we need to get a corridor that will bring them to Benin. So this is the transmission rehabilitation expansion program which we created. Now, Rufai, even with that one, there are still some shortcomings that have not been established, have not been solved for us to create the kind of N-1 we need. And that was why we were at the verge of completing so for this project I mentioned to you, we have raised the money, we have everything, meaning we have all the money, we have created the PIU to implement the project. Donors have provided the money in $1.661 billion. Still, there are some critical lines. We need to close the loop in Lagos. Because if you look at Lagos Island, it gets supply from Ikeja, from Egbin. If there's a problem between Egbin and Aja, for example, now the whole of Lagos Island would be without supply. That is not consistent with the N-1. Yes, we are supposed to create a line from Akamba to Alagon. And that line has to be multi-circuit tower because we already have 132 Akamba to Alagon. And also there is a 132 line that runs from Akamba to Akoka. So for us to do this one, it has to be multi-circuit tower. And we need to put another 330 kV substation in Ijora. Ijora is close to Akamba. But you know, Ijora will have been the one that will feed Lagos Island. Will feed Lagos Island. So we contacted the Ministry of Information. They gave us a place very close to the festival, that art, National Art Theatre. So we are to carry out the study. That study never took place as of today. Then, so that is supposed to be phase 2 of transmission rehabilitation and extension program. Now, if you look at Iko, we are supposed to put a 132 kV substation in Iko. We carry out the study. We established the need to put it. But we decided to build 330 kV line from Lekki to Iko. The line we are building from Omotosho to Epe, instead of taking that line from Omotosho to Epe, it will now come through Aja. We decided Aja is heavily built. You can't bring a 330 in that line again. So why don't we use the coastal line to bring it to Eco Atlantic? That Eco Atlantic project, the Rufai, is supposed. You see, one of the biggest problems of Nigeria that most people don't know is capital flight. It's not corruption that our biggest problem, Rufai. I hear you talk about corruption most of the time. Our biggest problem is not corruption. Indians are more corrupt than us, Rufai, but they are developing. Our biggest problem as a nation is actually capital flight, where we steal the money and we take it abroad. So at that time, our thinking is that we don't care how the Eco Atlantic was built, whether it's a stolen money that was used to be, it's not a problem. But we're thinking that if we connect Eco Atlantic, it will become viable. So those people who are stealing our money and they're taking to Dubai to go and buy flat, they will buy flat in Lagos. So the money stays in Nigeria. And that is why we did the tender. Rufai, I finished the tender. I finished everything. I have the money to do the line. Rufai, they blow the whistle to sack me. Till date, the Eco Atlantic contract was not signed. Just, I've written the memo for fake, but I couldn't take it before they sacked me. Till date, that was not done. So what am I trying to tell you is that, so for transmission, even the effort that we did, the most annoying thing, Rufai, even the effort that we did, all of them have been destroyed. Just has been destroyed, including the money that we saved to do additional to do the phase 2, which will include the eastern backbone that will evacuate that will run from Calabar to Kano and from Kebbi from Sokoto to Katsina. All of them has been stopped and the money has been squandered.
Okay. If you can put the camera to your face, sir.
See, that Siemens that you are seeing, it didn't start as Siemens. It was not Siemens, Rufai. It is the same GE that came up. You know, the Oyinbo people, GE was the one that hung NIPP on our neck, Rufai, I told you.
Yeah.
Now, the same GE, they know that we are stupid people, black people who don't read, and we forget easily. After hanging that, let me tell you, Rufai, GE, when we did SCADA, I was in World Bank project that time. When we did SCADA in 2002, we pre-qualified GE as one of the companies to tender for SCADA. There are only 4. GE wrote us and said they are not interested. Because they are not interested to come to Nigeria and work. So they are only interested to supply equipment and leave it on the sea for us to go and clear and pack. Do you understand? After having that FOB on our neck through NIPP, after several years, they now know that we are stupid people. We will have forgotten what has happened. So they decided to come back to Nigeria with this concept of the Siemens. Rufai, it was the office of the vice president. We killed that project. I, Usman, with the Minister of Power, Fashola, we killed that project. We said it will not happen. And let me tell you, part of the reason why I believe Fashola was even removed as Minister of Power was because he is against that GE project. And I'll tell you why. See, so when we killed that project in the office of the Vice President for the GE, now what did they do? What they did was that one Yoruba boy in GE, name was is it Bayo or Dayo, in GE, decided to leave GE to go to Siemens. The same concept of that project that we killed in GE, they now carry it to Siemens. They now know that the vice president is not with them, meaning the vice president has been with GE, so they decided to exclude it. So they now moved the whole power sector that was being supervised, and they look for somebody who they know they can control as minister, and appointed him as minister. That was the main reason why it was removed from Fashola. Now let me tell you what is GE project. They model it. They show us picture of how they work in Egypt, how they did it. Egypt problem and our problem are completely different. Egypt have no transmission line. What the problem of Egypt is generation. Rufai in generation, if you want to generate 10,000 megawatts in the next 2 years or even 1 year, you can do it. You bring gas turbines, the batteries, and put them on the sea. If you have the infrastructure, you can generate them. So our problem is not generation. Our problem is distribution and transmission.
So you're saying our problem is not generation?
Can I use the Egyptian model of the work that Siemens did in Egypt to solve the problem of Nigeria? Because our problems are completely different. So that's why they hung that Siemens project on us. But where is the Siemens project now? Where is it?
Because they said they were going to increase the megawattage about 20-something thousand megawatts. They were going to do a lot of things and all of that.
About 7 substations they are building. 7 substations, mostly in remote areas, increase our capacity to
okay. 20. I want you to tell me about these debts, these power debts now, over 6 trillion at generation companies. And why is it that we have not been able to increase our capacity and we still have system collapse? Tell me about that. And how can we generate more power? Obi said he can do 10,000 megawatts. I'm asking, how is he going to do it? We've not seen the answers.
Has Obi sat down with the power people and they discussed with him and they agree what should be done? I have made attempt to see him several times. It's not possible. So how can they say they will do this? See, let me tell you, even currently as we speak, there is no concrete plan by all the political gladiators on how to solve the problem of electricity. Look, Rufai, before you start solving the problem of electricity, there are two key areas that you have to tackle. You have to solve the problem of distribution. You have to solve the problem of distribution. And let me tell you, Rufai, at that time, when we completed the transmission rehabilitation expansion program, we carry out simulation of the investment requirement of the discos to build their new injection substation, to rehabilitate their line and fix their line. We came up with about slightly 4 billion. See, when I told you we carried out the study and we came up with a requirement of about 4 billion for the distribution company to fix their network, to be able to carry the supply that will come from the transmission rehabilitation expansion program at that time. We wrote to NAC and said this is the requirement and they should also work towards capitalizing the discourse to the tune of that 4 billion, about 4 billion. Rufai, can you hear me? Rufai?
I'm with you.
When we wrote to NAC, Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission, wrote to us and said that they don't agree with our simulation. So at that time, I was the MD. I told them they should hire a consultant to review whatever we have done and that we are ready to fund the study that they want to do. So they hired a consultant and we paid. When we paid for that study, the consultant reviewed the whole network of distribution across the country and returned exactly what we said. They even added 1 billion on top of the 4 billion that we came up with. Because we stopped at 11 kV injection substation, but the consultant extended it to 415. That is 11 kV to 415. So the document was given to NAC. Sir, that document, NAC, we wrote a letter to them and said, okay, now that you have confirmed, what should we do? Rufai, nothing was done. Nothing was done. Nothing was done. After I've been removed as MDTCN, I gathered, I have one group we call PEN. I think you are a member of it.
Yeah.
Out of PEN, we got ourselves and we carry out a study to establish the investment requirement of the discos, because the discos are the most critical actually, then followed by transmission. And we look at how do we even solve the problem of the distribution network, because most of the expansion that were done after the discos take over from the private sector and from the public sector, most of them were done on 33, 415. That is normal. And that is why when it rains, the network will keep on collapsing because there's no protection on the side of the distribution companies. It means transmission is the one providing protection for private people's houses. So when it rains, definitely the network will be collapsing. So we carried out a study to establish how it's going. We even approached African Development Bank we did the QR for the study. We approached African Development Bank. They are ready to provide the funding to carry out a comprehensive, more detailed study, more than what we did in the past. Okay, we forwarded to government. They are going to get grant too, but nobody follow up for it. Nobody cares. So when we are talking now, we start talking and we are going to expand. Look, before you expand any generation, you have to expand the demand. Electricity is not like water. You cannot store it. So if you see that study we did, the simulation we did, and the letter we wrote, and the study we pushed, do you know that late last year, Economist, that popular news in the magazine in London, is it in they supported what we said, that they say African countries are stupid, that we are working on to expand our electricity without expanding the demand. So for you to expand electricity, you have to, who are going to take the electricity? The distribution network, you have to strengthen the distribution, expand them, and provide the level of efficiency that will make them to take more power. Because electricity is supply and demand. The supply and the demand must equal at all in time. So even if you have the 10,000 generation capacity, if your distribution network can only take 5,000, it's only 5,000 you generate. You can't generate more than that. So when people are talking like this and they don't have any plan for anything, what are you saying? Nowhere. But I can tell you, if we fix
so why are the discos and the gencos being owed the money they are owed? And how can the government solve that problem that they are owing them?
First of all, Rufai, first of all, there are governance issues. And that one has to be resolved. Do you understand? There's no even enforcement, serious enforcement. So there's governance issue need to be resolved. But the real fact where you have this money owing is because the government has guaranteed the performance of the distribution company. That's why they created embed. So if the distribution company failed to collect the money to pay the junkers, is the government that will pay the balance. Did you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Continuously, the distribution company could not collect the money. Why? They could not collect the money because they need investment for them to be able to collect the money. They need to fix meters. They need to fix the overloaded transformers. They need to fix the air and the side wires and all. They need to fix it. So how do you get the money when you have a lot of losses into the system? Do you understand what I'm saying? So that is why government will have to be paying this money. But to solve this problem is that we need investment into the distribution network. We need investment into transmission network. Do you understand? So that they'll be able to carry the power. Even what we have done that they have spoiled, we have to fix it. For example, now, even all this line that we are talking, I've told you about, we designed to do a line from Omotosho to Benin North. That line was supposed to be financed through a private sector. It's supposed to be PPP. Since I left the MDTCN, we have done all the scoping study and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. So even if you complete the Benin North to Akure to Ayede, even if you complete it, there's no enough power that will enter Lagos. You have to do this line, this new
Hmm.
line. That line, that the current line between Benin TS and Omotosho is a single circuit line. So the line between Benin North and Ayede that we are building, which we are almost 90% completed, yet up to now it has not finished, is double circuit. But from Ayede to Ikeja West is single circuit. But from Omotosho,
So can I ask you a question? To fix all these transmission lines, how much is it going to cost us as we speak today in Nigeria?
Wallahi, Rufai, if you ask them, they will give you big numbers. But based on the tender that we carry out, do you understand? Under phase one, it was $1.661 billion. It has been managed. Under phase two, Rufai, to do this line, to put Eastern Backbone, to close the loop in Lagos, do a motor show Benin North Court line, to close the loop between Delta and Port Harcourt, and do Eastern Backbone that will run from Cross River to Kano, and also close that. All of them, Rufai, will not be more than $2.5 billion dollars. Not be. If you do proper tender.
If you do all these lines,
Yes.
if we give you the $2.5 billion now, you do all this line.
Yes.
How many thousand megawatts are we going to be able to distribute to people?
Transmission capacity, if you solve if you implement the transmission rehabilitation expansion program, if they have done it religiously, it will have taken transmission to a capacity of 20,000 megawatts. If you add this one that I'm talking, closing the loop in Lagos, completing Epe to Omotosho and Epe to Iko Atlantic, and do Omotosho to Benin, and do Eastern Delta to Port Harcourt, and also Delta to Opai, and close the loop from Calabar to Kano, and also we do that one from Katsina to DC. We'll have increase our capacity to up to 40,000 megawatts for transmission. You have to do each one of them for transmission. We'll have increased our 40,000 megawatts. But when you ask them, they start all those money that they are throwing, 10,000 billion, all is corruption. Rufai, it's all corruption.
So you are saying that even with all the one that this government is saying they are working with the Siemens deal, the Siemens deal is a scam. That's what you're saying.
Of course, it's a scam. They know it's a scam now. They know it's a scam. So
nothing will come out of it.
There's nothing in Siemens now. Which project? To do one project, two projects in Lagos, one project in Kano, one in Zamfara, one project in Zaria, then and in Abuja. Then you say you will go to 10,000 megawatts. It's not a scam. Which can scam? Which can something with this? Rufai, we are the one that nailed Siemens. I'm the one that nailed them. Because when we did last meeting with them, and they insisted on doing the FOB, let me tell you, when they insisted on doing the same way they did for this GE, I said I will not sign anything that's FOB. We have to do supply and installation. You are bringing technology that we don't know. You say you have to do GIS instead of open air. So, and you want to put it on the sea for us to look for somebody to install. And this is proprietary. It's only you that can install. So, you, the same Siemens that we gave you to solve the problem of Aja, which is your equipment, and you took 2 years, you could not solve the problem. And now you're coming to tell me that you want to do FOB. I say, over my dead body, I will not be part of it. They reduced the scope to less than 90%, to less than 10%. That is why we're able to remove. They could have done the same way they did for NIPP for us. They will manufacture so many things and put it on the seat. Something that we may not be able to install.
So are you saying that with like $10 billion, we can ramp up distribution to about 40,000 megawatts and increase generation to about over 20 or 30,000 megawatts?
Rufai, with good job, good tender, without corruption, you don't need up to $10 billion. I swear to Almighty. You don't need up to $10 billion. Because some of those transformers that we are going to remove, including those transformers that are 330, 415, they can be recalibrated and make 11 kV 415. They can be. They can. So you don't need up to that amount, Rufai. But
So you don't need. So if you don't need up to $10 billion to be able to fix the Nigerian electricity, why have they not done it? Now they are trying to go and raise bond of over billions of dollars again for this. Why are they not? Is it not because they are just corrupt?
see, it's not only corruption, Rufai. It's incompetence also. Because when you are not competent, there's no way you can do the right thing. Because even corruption by itself is incompetence now. If you are not, if you are competent, you are also interested in your name now. Since they did what they did to me, when they removed me, did they tell you I steal any money? Did you ever hear my name in EFCC or ICPC or anywhere? Did you ever hear
In,
it?
in fact, the person that was power minister during that time is the one that is in EFCC today.
So you see, I want to tell you how it is. It's incompetence, Rufai, and we have not taken a decision to put the right people to do the right job. You understand? There are certain things that I don't want to expose, including my communication with the president, the current president. But the fact is that we are not honest with ourselves. And that is the reason why we cannot solve the problem of power. But I want to tell you, it's not correct to say that the power sector is a difficult project. It's not true. Rufai, when I was an African development, I was asked to come and fix transmission. It took me more than 6 months to take the job. We had to sit down and make an agreement with the government before I took the job. When I became MD of TCN could not pay salary until they go to next month. Every month we have to go next month before we pay the month of last salary of next month, the previous month. Rufai, when we implemented cost-saving strategy and how to manage our things, without a single increase in tariff, Rufai, we did about 300% salary increase in TCN. Till date, if you go to TCN, they still call their salary with my name, UG1 and UG2. Any of the transmission company, go and ask them. Since I did that increase till date, 6 years after, no one kobo was increased to them. And Rufai, I was able to save about $500 million, even without a single increase tariff. Unfortunately, it was that saving that I did that was led to my sack. Well, it is the letter I wrote that I have that money to provide the counterpart funding for the second phase of the transmission rehabilitation expansion program. That letter, that same man that you are saying is facing FCC, is one that carried the letter to them in the villa, and they wrote a letter to remove me, sack me. No query, nothing. I'm just telling you. So what am I saying? If without a single tariff increase, we are able to increase salary by 300%, we're able to save from the same tariff $500 million. What does that tell you? It tells you that with proper, prudent management, and if we are able to plug all the vested interests in the system, nothing will stop us from working. But the fact is that
if you were called upon to be made power minister today, what would you do?
I will not
and
take.
you were given free hand.
I wouldn't want to be minister of power as of today because I know how bad the system is. If I'm to be made minister of power, I have to sit down with the person who is the president. We have to have agreement with him. Otherwise, I will become minister of power, and in the next a few months, he will sack me. I'm telling you.
Why?
Because of the vested interest and the corruption inside the system now. Let me give example. Some of those money that they are paying as outstanding to generators, all those money we are paying to generators outstanding. Rufai, if you are paid on availability, then it must be available all the time now. Yeah? If I'm paying you on availability, if you're available, I have to pay you. You have to be available all the time now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Now, how do you become available when you don't even have effective gas supply agreement?
Mm.
Do you understand? Are you hearing me?
Yes.
So why will I pay you for something that you're not on availability when you are not available? Let me give you, that is another problem. Let me tell you another thing. Some of those generators that are claiming so much money that they are owing, so many of them, they have not been providing voltage support. So it's not only to provide the electricity, it's the quality of electricity you are providing also. Have you been providing it properly? Do they have, most of these generators, do they have do they have free governor? Do you understand what I'm saying? Let me tell you something. When I became MD of TCN, the only thing is that Fashola is somebody who understands things. It's not like other stupid people. First month, second month when I became MD, you know, at that time I was both the system operator and I was also the transmission service providers. When I called the generators to come for us to meet, and they have to provide free governor because that's what the law said. The laws under the grid code, all generators are supposed to provide free governor, and they have not been providing before I became MD. When I gave them a letter, we had to sit down. Do you know that they wrote to minister that if minister doesn't sack me, that they are going to cut the electricity off. Minister called me and said, this is what these people are saying. I said, okay, leave them. They are liars. We are going to meet and they have to come for the meeting. And anyone that refuses to come to the meeting, we are going to remove them from the grid. They are lying. We force them to provide the free governor. There are few of them. There's one around Sepele and which we reduce their generation to a minimum. All of them provide the free governor. Today, they are back. They are not providing the free governor because the free governor puts some strength on the generators. But it also provides stability. That is what we call primary reserve. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the primary reserve, the secondary reserve, you know that all we don't have it. When I was MDTCN, I procured secondary reserve. NAC said I have to go and do public, competitive procurement. I did competitive procurement. I procured. I gave them till date. They have not approved the secondary reserve. So, Rufai, our system have to collapse because we have weak infrastructure. At the same time, some of the ingredients that will provide the stability for the grid are not there. Do you understand? Let me tell you, even SCADA, Rufai, I was MDTCN. We did SCADA twice. One of the SCADA that was done in the past, under World Bank funded, I was part of the team that did that SCADA. So before I came as MDTCN, we have done SCADA 3 times and we have failed 3 times. So we had to do the 4th time. But something tells me something is wrong. Why is it that we have been doing this and we have been failing? So we recruited EDF to do the scoping of the SCADA for us. When they finished and they gave us the report, I called my team, we sit down. I told them, I said, look, my body is telling me we are still going to be wrong. They say, why? I said, if you have been doing procurement competitively and one company is winning, what does that tell you? It tells you that you don't know what you are doing now. Why is it only one company that's winning? So I told them that, look, we have to call a SCADA conference so that all the OEMs of manufacturing SCADA in the world, they must come to Nigeria. And we bring some grid that have been running SCADA that is working. They should come also and see, and let's review this document together with them. So that let's provide a uniform platform that everybody can beat. Meaning, if EDF have put something inside that document that only one company can beat because of corruption, we will now be able to solve the problem. So, Rufai, we invited all the OEMs for SCADA in the world, all the known ones, even GE. And we invited the grid of Italy. They came. The power grid of India came. And the grid of Ghana came also. And we reviewed the document in Hilton. We improved the document and we made it very reliable that anybody can beat. But even with that, I felt that there's something wrong. So I decided to travel to South Africa to go and meet. South Africa did their SCADA twice. It is the 3rd one they succeeded. So I went to meet the man that made them to succeed, the head of the automation of ESCOM. Unfortunately for me, when I went, he has left ESCOM, he was with McKinsey. So I went to his office at Pretoria in McKinsey. They said he has traveled. So I left a message for him that I'm looking for him. I'm the MD Transmission Company of Nigeria. So when he came to the office, they gave him, he called me. And he said he has an event that he will do in Ghana. He will come to Nigeria. And when he comes to Nigeria, he will pass through Nigeria. This guy did his ticket through Nigeria to Ghana. We only paid for his hotel. He didn't even ask us to pay for his ticket. So we paid for his hotel. I gathered all my engineers, we sit down. We reviewed the SCADA with him. When we finished, Rufai, do you know what he told me? He told me, if you go like this, again, you are going to fail. You are not going to succeed. So he said the only way you will succeed, MD, is that you have to bring your engineers, train them, let them be the drivers of the SCADA. They are the one to write the algorithm. They are the one to write everything you're going to do. They should be the driver. Otherwise, if you allow the contractor to come and take over and build SCADA for you, you are going to fail. Rufai, we now selected young engineers. None of them is more than senior manager. We selected 5 SCADA software engineers, 5 SCADA hardware engineers, and 5 communication engineers. All of them, none of them is more than senior manager, meaning they have more than 10 years to stay in TCN. We made them to sign a bond that if we train them, they cannot leave the organization until after 5 years, and they agree. And Rufai, we started training them by sending them to Ghana, where they will see black people managing SCADA and it's working. Rufai, when they came back, the guys that are in Lagos, the first thing they did was to return a green to main SCADA when it was not there before, in first week. Then they start harassing them in their various offices. So I transferred them all to Abuja so that they will focus on designing the SCADA for us and nobody will harass them, all their seniors. Do you know, Rufai, immediately I was removed. They disbanded that team. And we are doing the same way and we failed before. They have disbanded them. So now it's still the same way we have been doing. So how do we succeed? There are so many things that you need to do, but we are not doing, and we want to succeed. And let me tell you, Rufai, before I conclude, electricity is not like road. As I told you, I've told you this before. Once I completed the NIPP line from Ikota Bene to Ugwaji to Mokodi to Jos, they completed the line. But if you ask all the people that are consuming the electricity in Jos and the Northeast, some of the big companies what do you call Ashaka, they refuse to connect to the grid. Why? Because the quality of power is very poor. And why is the quality of power very poor? Because there are some ingredients that are supposed to be on the line, which were not there. Rufai, every professional engineer that is designing a transmission line knows that if the distance is between 200 and 300 kilometers, you have to put reactor. So there's supposed to be a reactor in Equatabene. There's supposed to be a reactor in Ugwaji. There's supposed to be a reactor in Jos. But there was none in that line. Every transmission engineer knows that if you are building a line where there's hill and there's so many bends, you have to put what they call transposition towers. There was none. As MDTC, and I have to buy those transposition towers before I put it. So what am I telling you? What I'm telling you is that electricity, when you involve so much corruption, it will not work. If it is road, when you build road, you can steal the money, you can build, you can design 9 inches, and you can steal money for 4 inches and build only for 3 inches. Road will be there. People will apply the road. Whether the road will last for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years is another matter, but there will be road. For electricity, it will not work properly. You cannot use it if you remove some things inside. And that is the problem. And that is what pains me, Rufai, because if we don't fix electricity, there's no way we can solve our basic problem of insecurity, unemployment, and all those. So we cannot. And let me tell you another thing, Rufai. You look at under this EFTA agreement that we signed, it means I can set up a company in Niger and supply Nigeria. I can set up a company in Benin and supply Nigeria under this agreement. You understand? So now, between we and our neighbors, what is our comparative advantage? Because if I can set up a company in Benin and supply Nigeria, so why do I need to establish my company in Nigeria instead of in Benin? See, Rufai, all those countries surrounding us, including Ghana, Cameroon, all of them, they are unitary states. Meaning, for the next 100 years, we cannot compete with them on ease of doing business and multiple taxation. Because here, state would design a local government, would design a form of tax to impose on you. Local government will impose a tax on you. Federal government will impose tax on you. In those countries, all of them, including Cameroon, Niger, and Benin, all of them, if the federal government put a tax, nobody will put another tax. So what do we have that will attract
Thank you
rest of
so
Nigeria?
much.
What will we have? The only thing we have that will the advantage over them is electricity. We can
Thank you
generate
so much.
electricity cheaper than them, but we have refused to solve the problem. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much. I
Yes,
really
thank
thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us.
you.
Thank you so much. That's a great interview there with the great Eugene Mohammed there. All right. Thank you so much. That's about all we can take on this session. Bless you. Thank you all.